focus. Auto stocks, top performing sector today. What's worked for something like a Maruti? Let's go across to Puneet. Puneet is here with us.
Well, thanks for that. So, apart from Maruti as well, there are two other players that I want to talk about that's, taken, and we can see the kind of reaction on the stock price as well. Let's first look at Eicher Motors because, 8% stock move today on a stock that's not cheap by any means, but the kind of sales figures that they've put out is very interesting because of course total sales are at 79,400, expectation was of 74,500, so beaten estimates there. The other aspect is that it's a 25% growth from the same time last year, so a big jump coming in the month of December. While I will agree that the base year was a very on a slower and a lower volumes, it's still a very big beat for something like an Eicher Motors. It's interesting that the international book has grown by 90% in this month. It's coming at roughly 11,500, and most of it is 650cc and higher. So it's the higher average selling prices as well as margins for something like an Eicher. So definitely really strong moves on the stock today. Apart from that, domestic sales have also been strong at 19%, and I'll come back to the other players at the end of why this is important. The second stock, it's Ashok Leyland. Now, on the face of it, a 5% growth, wouldn't be too much, but the segment that Ashok Leyland has grown is the MHCV segment, which is the higher truck, medium and heavy commercial vehicles. Now, this segment has reported a 8% jump in this particular month. It could have been higher on an overall basis, but the bus segment has underperformed, falling by 3%. But this is the first month over the last 9 months that the MHCV sales have come in with a positive number, and it's a meaningful 8% jump. So it does indicate that the infra spending has started and need for commercial vehicles have finally come in, especially on the MHCV side. Finally, as you rightly said, Maruti Suzuki is the last one I want to talk about. 1.78 lakh units sold. The market did react positively when numbers came in yesterday, but the strong move today is also seen because of the mini as well as the compact segment. Mini has the Alto as well as the S-Presso, while the others such as Baleno as well as Dzire has also done very well. We spoke to the management today. They did mention that 25,000 units sold of the Dzire in just this month. This is the first full month of the launch, and that's been one of the key factors. The mini segment has grown 190%, while something like the compact segment on the other hand has grown 20%, and exports at the end has grown 40%. The only caveat that I can take out of all of this is that 6 out of the 9 companies that of course sell vehicles and are listed as well have actually beaten estimates in the month of December, where it was expected to be a weak quarter. And while guys like Tata Motors and have just beaten estimates by a percentage point, growth has come in at 3%, it's still a beat. So most of the automakers have grown very well. Just for TVS and Bajaj, they have underperformed the expectation, which is a contrary to most analysts had expected. And the worrying part is the domestic sales, because that's been slightly lower for both these players. Overall, exports have been very well for all. And we are still expecting, numbers to come in for someone like a Hero MotoCorp. It's expected to be a 6% fall in sales, but we'll watch out for those numbers. But overall, Ashok Leyland, Eicher Motors, and Maruti are the clear big winners going into Q4.
Wow. Thanks a lot for that, Puneet. And it's showing in the way the stock prices are. Actually, let's talk about that because we've spoken about Maruti at length with Rajesh as well as Kush. Kush, I want to come to you on Ashok Leyland because that's, to my mind, that was a bit of a surprise package, if you will. Now, what does this 5% up move indicate? Could there be more upsides?
So, Neeraj, there's a bit of a test here around that 235 mark. Let's not forget this stock had actually had a pretty serious down move, and wasn't even in the reckoning when we speak about the auto stocks. So I think this is a bit of a reprieve, a bit of a relief rally that's come on. Now I think once this 235, perhaps even if I extend that to 240, once this level is taken out, perhaps after that could you see some kind of a move. But for me, this is more of a short covering bounce that has come about. So I will just if anyone's got a position to perhaps book partially or hold it with a TSL. Fresh position should be initiated once the 240 resistance or threshold is taken out. Up until then, this could perhaps be one of those flash in the pan kind of moves, and the stock could go sideways. 240, that's the level that I'm watching for on Ashok Leyland.
Okay. And Rajesh, while you've liked Maruti, what about Eicher? That's the other winner, as Puneet said. and arguably the best performer today. What upsides here?
No, I think Eicher is clear winning stock from the automobile pack, and now stock is enjoying its all-time high trajectory. The way stock has moved up for especially for today's session, I think stock managed to break out of consolidation of almost 8 to 10 week. And looking at the breakout, we believe that if its stocks continues to hold above 50 to 100 mark, I think the next target we may see towards 5500 going forward. So I think one can hold on the position with stop loss of 50 to 100 for Eicher.
Okay. Okay. Now, before I get to Lancelot on one or two other names, just since we are on the topic of autos, we spoke earlier to Partho Banerjee, who was a senior executive officer of marketing and sales at Maruti, who spoke about what led to this growth in the mini segment in December.
I would like to say that we have been working for all the segments actually. It is not only the entry hatch, but be it the sedan, be it the premium hatch, SUV. In all segments, our endeavor is to see to it that how we are able to serve our customers. With regard to the entry hatch, I would like to say that let's first understand what the problem is. The problem is this: due to the different regulations and the law of the land, the vehicle prices have gone up to the tune of 60% if we compare to the year 2018. However, at the same time, the monthly household income has not grown to that level. So there is always a problem of the affordability. But what we are seeing now and what we are trying to do is this: we are trying to come up with different sort of innovative finance schemes, be it the limited editions, by which we are trying to see to it that how we can make this car affordable to more and more consumers who want to upgrade from a two-wheeler to a four-wheeler. Please keep in mind one thing: it is very important to understand that the car penetration, which is per thousand, is only 32. And if we need to go to a number of 44 also, we need to see to it that how we are going to make people from upgrading from two-wheeler to four-wheeler.
Okay. Lancelot, your views with regard to especially Maruti's numbers, they were standout. But what does this mean as a trend, both in consumption as well as in auto? Do you expect the trend to shift now more towards the smaller compact vehicles?
I think Maruti has done well because of two trends that are being visible clearly. The main cities are not contributing as much to growth, but it is the smaller towns, the tier 2 and tier 2 towns, that have started to contribute to the growth, and that will continue for a couple of years as well, because as India becomes more and more conscious about upgrading to four-wheelers and having better quality cars, and a car is basically an aspirational product. And so we should see with Maruti having its dealer network in almost all the small towns, its level of servicing and penetration is much higher than most of the other car companies. I think Maruti will continue to enjoy the benefit of this increased penetration as well as increased distribution capabilities. Plus, on a product side, they have been constantly improving, coming out with new products which are offering aspirational value to the customers, incorporating the latest trends and creating trends sometimes themselves. So I would say that it is definitely positive for Maruti, especially if you have a 1 to 3 year perspective. And maybe the slowdown in the economy that we are seeing might have a temporary impact, and would probably play out over the next 2 quarters. And thereafter, as GDP growth comes in, you'll again see, significant growth in the car market as well. So that should also help Maruti going forward. So from a longer term perspective, definitely it makes a case, maybe not today because of the kind of steep rise we saw in a single day. Probably whenever there is some profit booking and there's an opportunity to buy or accumulate at lower prices, Maruti is a good investment opportunity for the portfolios.
Okay.